Welcome to Agoracom, best of the best small cap stock TV. We haven't been here in a while. I apologize for that. A lot of travel requirements, going to Vancouver and some other things. A lot of conferences going on here in June. So my apologies. I'm George Cholas, founder of Agoracom. With us, Alan Barry, as always, our chief market commentator. Alan, say hello.
Hello, everybody. We've got a bunch of good picks for you. As George said, we had some scheduling problems recently, but we're back on schedule. We'll be putting out a lot of shows. We've got exciting stuff coming up, and we've got some great picks for today.
And I think what we want to tell everybody is you and I both agree, so maybe we haven't had a few shows. The last month, the last 5 weeks have been kind of tough. However, we're coming back with a bang. So we're going to talk about what we normally talk about, some of Alan's picks, some of my picks, but also we both got some mega views on where we see small cap junior companies going. I've seen something. Last year at 7-Eleven, Al and I said this was the turnaround. We all know what happened. We pegged it almost at the day. If you're new to the show, go take a look at the TSX Venture Index. Take a look at where it was on July 11th of 2013 and see what's happened ever since. So we nailed that on the head.
Oh, and by the way, George, don't forget that by looking at it in the context of what we talked about, which was trying to pick the companies that were zombies, those that were dormant, and those that were leaders. Even though the market hasn't turned around dramatically yet, during the past year, those leaders have been the ones that where you find the winners, and there's some picks out there that have done very, very well, even the condition of the market over the last year or so.
Yeah, we picked the bottom of the index, and that's up, probably 20% or something like that, maybe even 25%. But some of the individual winners have been monsters, real monster runs. And again, I'm hoping Alan's going to get his picks into me so that I can actually finalize those. But we know they've been monster victories. So, and we've got a view on that. And next year is the 1-year anniversary, but today we're going to give you some pretty pressing views on where we think things are going. And I think we're both we both can, and that doesn't happen. This isn't a cheerleading thing. So when we're both in agreement, we both concur about what we're seeing, I think that gets pretty dangerous. So Alan, let's start off with some of the recent picks. I've been on Twitter hammering this pretty hard, and you made it one of your calls on Agoracom Daily TV, and even our last weekly show, BlackBerry. All right, and BlackBerry is going to set the table for where we think all the good small caps are going to go. Let's talk about BlackBerry, which closed at 1061 on Friday. This is U.S. money here we're talking about. I picked it on Twitter at 744. Sold out at 925 range, and I'm glad to see it still running. But Alan, you're still holding it, so let's talk about BlackBerry for a second.
Yeah, it was funny that within a day or two you had picked on the same day that you picked it. I also talked about it on the show and picked it as one of my picks the exact same day, and we had no idea. Right. We don't time these things together, but we were both seeing the same thing with BlackBerry. And you picked it as a short-term trade, which has turned out wonderfully. And my pick was more on the, I think it's one of those tech turnarounds. And that's one of the things that I always look for, George, is I like to see those beaten down things, when the market just gets ridiculously oversold. And that's what I was seeing with BlackBerry. I saw that John Chen came in. I liked what he was talking about as far as the turnaround. One of the keys to any turnaround is you got to change the management, because the guys that drove you into the ditch aren't going to be the ones who drive you out of the ditch. And I think that John Chen's going to do that. I think it's going to be a phenomenal turnaround story. And the main reason I think that's going to happen is BlackBerry, I think, is going to become a little bit less known as a consumer products device maker, and a little more in the background as an enterprise software solutions company. And I think as a software solutions company, much like what IBM did back in the 90s, when they moved from making devices, they sold their their computer business to
The
Lenovo.
Hartford side.
And then Lou Gerstner came in, and it was a phenomenal turnaround. And they refocused the company back onto software solutions for enterprise. And IBM was a major winner, and I think we're going to see the same thing with BlackBerry. Now you've got the chart up there, so you can show the folks where we were talking about it, George.
Yeah. So here's a short and long term. Won't go over the past again, but we picked it off right in this level here. Okay. I mean and you can see a lot of reasons why we did that. There's been some support in that area. A lot of the technicals just look too good. Everything converged. Look at the lift we've gotten so far. Here's what I'm looking for. So I sold out. You can say it's a little bit early, but I don't mind. We made 30%. I'm ecstatic with that. Here's what I'm looking at. We're right here. Take a look at the crosshairs and go right across, and you'll see that it's tried to break this 1070 area a couple of times. So the high here was 1078. The high here, right here, was in the $11 range. So I'm looking to see that if it goes through 1125, I'm back in again big time. And I believe what Alan's saying. I'm right in line with him that BlackBerry may very well be. I've made this call. BlackBerry could be back to a $40 or $50 stock sometime in the next 2-3 years. You got to remember, everybody, there was a time when Apple was fledgling, and it was a $6 stock, $7 stock being kept alive by Microsoft and investors.
I remember pounding on the table talking about Apple, and everyone was telling me nuts. And at the time that they were calling me nuts, was the company was at $12 a share, and they had $10 a share in cash.
Yeah. So, and you just have to have the guts to be able to recognize that. I mean, hopefully you bought 1 million shares of it back then, Alan, and you're a multi-billionaire right now who just enjoys being on my show every week.
Yeah. That's what happened.
All right, so that's BlackBerry. We won't pound it too far because we're going to have a lot to talk about BlackBerry, but do your research. These guys are going to be the operating software for write this term down, the Internet of Things. I think it's the most horrible term. I hate that term, but you got to go do your research now, the Internet of Things, which means BlackBerry is going to power when your thermostat is talking to the refrigerator, which is talking to your phone. BlackBerry's QNX software is going to be behind that, and we'll leave it at that for now. So, Alan, let's segue a little bit into what that means now, being able to catch these trends, and what you think this means for the small cap junior space.
Sure. Yeah, George, one of the most rewarding things that I've done as an analyst is, I was often, when I used to be on BNN on a regular basis, it seemed like they would always call me when the market was in the most turmoil after a big crash and stuff like that. And I think why they called me during those times is that, I've always been able to keep a level head no matter how crazy things are getting on the street, because I focus so much on the fundamentals. And the fundamentals usually help you to get over the craziness that's happening in the market sometimes. And that was sort of indicative of what you and I were both seeing last year around this time in the market. And I'm now seeing a beautiful trend, even though a lot of companies are still talking about how tough it is out there in the mining sector, the exploration sector. What I've noticed is the cream is really rising to the top. And I love that, George, because I have a hard time trying to jump on a trend because, there's a lot of hot money in it. I like it when there's cold money and nobody's excited, and that's where we are right now again this time of the year.
Cold money, I like that. Let's go where the cold money is. I like that.
I just came up with that. I'm going to keep that one. That's a keeper.
I just registered the domain, coldmoney.com.
Yeah, there you go. Somebody will. And, George, it's come to the point that even I'm getting ready to step back on the other side of the street. Before I got into writing newsletters, I had worked for over a decade as a consultant to companies, helping them with their branding, their strategic planning, and stuff like that. And I'll tell you what, George, I'm seeing so many opportunities out there right now, and I just know that the best time to be building something is when the market is scared and fearful. Absolutely. And And that's what I'm seeing right now. And I'm working on a diamond company, and I'm working on a gold company, and a tech company that our audience will be learning about down the road. But I'm taking my own advice, George. I'm throwing my hat back into the ring.
Nice. Nice.
Of running. This time I'll be running a couple of these companies, and being instrumental in one of them as well. And it all comes back to what I'm saying, George. I love that. It seems like the market is getting better at separating the wheat from the chaff.
Thanks to the internet, thanks to things like this, helping people along and staying away from the hype.
Exactly. And now that the market is still not let's say it's not started its next bullish trend yet, this is the perfect time that if you're building now, you can set up yourself for big growth down the road. And so I'm taking my own advice as well.
All right, and here's the observation I want to make. So last year was Blood in the Streets time. You and I came on, and we both saw each other at the Cambridge conference in June, and in Vancouver, and we said blood is in the streets, big time. It's never going to get better than this to buy. And we did our 7-Eleven show. We're going to celebrate the first anniversary of that next week. Here's what I'm seeing thanks to the Cambridge conference this week, and they call it the Vancouver Investment Conference. So those guys put on great conferences, no doubt about it. They bring the best together. But here's what I loved about what I saw. We used to go to these shows at the peak, and there are 400 companies exhibiting there, and every single one of them had Fort Knox. And you couldn't get any stocks moving because the money was spread so thin because everyone believed every story. How many companies were at the show this year, Alan? 55. Yep. So back then, I see 400 companies, 40 of them were good, 360 were crap. They had no business being there, but they're selling paper and they're doing what they're doing. This time I went there, there are 55 companies. 45 of them were great. The survivors, 10 of them, good, needed some work still, but they're on their way. What that told me was the only guys left, I don't care if there are 2,500 listings sitting on the venture exchange, the only guys left are the leaders, going back to Alan's buckets of zombies, dormants, and leaders. All that was left, this is it. They may be keeping their listing fees. The other guys may be keeping their listing fees alive and paying a couple of grand and getting some auditors done and staying alive with their listing, but that's irrelevant. We hit the bottom when I was at that conference. Not the bottom, sorry, but the bottom was last year, Blood in the Streets. This year what I'm seeing is we've finally gotten to the point where the good guys are starting to move ahead, leaving everyone behind. This isn't going to be a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah, there's not
going to move, and everyone's going to move with it. No chance.
Yeah,
but exactly. You can find the good ones. You can find the good ones. Who knows what kind of upside there is? But I'm telling you, here's a call I'm going to make. In the next 2-3 years, we're going to see monster wins on the TSX Venture and the CSE. Let's not forget about those guys, the Canadian Securities Exchange, the small caps. We're going to see monster wins that we've never seen before. You know why? Because now we've only got about 100 companies, about 150 companies out there that are actually good. All the money that's going to come back, because all investors are going to come back. They always come back to small caps. I don't care what you tell me. I've been to this my 3rd time now. They always end up coming back because this is where the excitement is. This is where they can get a real bump. They can put $5,000 or $10,000 to work and hopefully make $25,000, $30,000, $50,000 if they're patient. Right? We saw it with Arizona Star in 2000 during the dot-com days. No one wanted to touch it. 25 cents got sold for $17.25 8 years later. Right? So that's why people come back. And when they do come back,
getting back to the BlackBerry, everybody was really negative on it, ignoring it, and look at how it snapped back. That's what we're trying to find here. And another thing that you just brought up in my mind, George, is now that the wheat has really been separated from the chaff, the spotlight, when you do have success, is not as diluted over 150 companies. The spotlight can now focus on the good ones, on the winners. And I've always been in this business to try and find mines, not mine the public. There's a lot of people out there in the business that are just trying to mine the public. They're interested in raising money.
No money. They're not coming back. They're finished. They're never coming back.
Exactly, and that's why, I feel so confident right now to throw my hat back in the ring, George, is because I love the opportunity to be able to create something that's significant, that people will pay attention to, and not because they're getting diluted by these, zombies and dormant companies. The quality is able to rise much more significantly that way.
And it's gonna happen. So on that note, let's go to a couple here, okay? Let's see some of your picks. We've got next one we'll talk about is BSM Technologies. That's the one that I started off last year, $2, so it'd be a $4 stock to hit 350. Came back, and I bought a whole whack at 204 on Twitter, $2.04.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that call.
Sold out at 218, 219. I always post my buys, I always post my sells. GPS, BSM Technologies, 228. What do you think, Alan, of where they're at right now?
Well, when you made that call, George, on Twitter, I looked at the chart really closely, and if memory serves me correctly, they had a triple bottom. And I think my comment to you was something like, this thing is extremely oversold and primed for a bounce. It bounced a little, and then it gave back some of those gains, but I do think we've made the bottom, and I'm looking for a lot better performance as we go forward. Since you made that 204 call, I think it ran up to about 225, kind of stalled, came back to 210-ish, and then it's run up. I think recently it was back up to 240-ish again.
Yep, 238 or so. Now it's at 228. It's trying to find its way here.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the bottom's in. We're coming into a better, and this is a good company. I love what this company's doing. A young tech company that's really got a bright future, using technology to solve things and make companies more money.
And here's what I want to show everyone, if you can see it. I'm going to try and zoom in on this. Alan, tell me if you can see the zoom. Actually, I won't be able to do it from here. But take a look at all these moving averages that are sitting right here between 215.
George, let me get my chart up. People can see the moving averages better.
All right. So while you're getting that up, I'll just tell you that what I'm liking here is that I'm seeing all the moving averages. So even if you can't see the lines, you can see these numbers here because it tells you where the moving averages are, okay, right in here. If it breaks through 240, 245, it's off and running to the races for it again. I might even say 240. If it breaks 240 and closes, got to break and close over 240. I might even say 245, just so I can get a real confirmation. I think it's off and running to the races. Long term, it's still a great buy. There's no doubt about it. But it could float right back down to this 210 range. You can see the little purple line underneath here. So you got to give it some time. You got to see if this run, in fact, is confirmed or not. Now, the MACD is higher. You can see that. So that's a very, very good sign. RSI, that's a relative strength, are all in relative good numbers here. 55 means it's not anywhere near overbought. And momentum seems to be strong, but it could be petering out. That's why I'm waiting to see if it can burst through and keep going, or if in fact it comes back. But either way, I'm going to be a buyer. This is one of those split buys where people say I'm crazy by Barry Allen, but I'm either buying at 245 or I'm buying again at 210, 215. Whichever one comes first. I'm not buying now. It's a no man's land. Show us what you got.
Okay, so I got the moving averages. First is the 20-day. So on a short-term basis, that's really bullish. It's broken above the 20-day, looking stronger. Kind of hit the 50-day window here. I like to see that, because these are kind of places where you have a little bit of a battle in the market. Hasn't touched the 100-day yet. Still has a ways to go to catch up to the 200-day. I think what you're going to see here, George, is that it starts to break above that 100-day.
And that's what I said, 240, 245. That's where I want to see a break.
Yeah, I got it right today at 238. So 238, yeah. But I like this MACD as well. Look at this, George. It's just getting ready to go positive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing here on this chart a lot.
So are you, because I'm not a buyer in between. If it gets back down to 210, 215, I'm a buyer, or I buy over 240, 245. But right now it's in that what I call technical no man's land. So I'm not going to touch it until it confirms one or the other.
Actually, what I think you're going to see here, George, is I think it might. I don't think you have to worry about. I think the bottom on this right now is going to be about 228. I don't think it's going to break below that 50-day again, and we'll start to get above the 100-day. But like you said, for your comfort level and what you look for, you want to see it bust through that 100-day, and then you think it's clear sailing up into here.
Yeah, or it comes back down to the 20-day, if you can point that line out one more time there, right there, or we get it come back down there, and
that's sitting right at 217, like you said.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 215. I'm a buyer. All right, so that's where we are on BSM. Next up, let's bring this up is Pretium Resources, PVG, and I'll do my screen share here. Right there. PVG, Pretium Resources, TSX. I mean, you've hit this one on the head. You destroyed and nailed this one. Close at 890. Volume of 45,000 shares. On average, it does 250. Now, this low volume is normal because it's July 4th weekend and a lot of people just run around. But 250,000 shares at $9 a share, you got a company doing over $2 million a share in volume. What are you thinking of? What do you think of Pretium? Because you hit this down to 5s or 6s, I believe. Where does it go?
The first time I called it was about 450, 460, and then again at 350. Back here, there was some negative news out that I thought the market was overreacting to.
Yeah, we argued about that, so everyone knows it's not a loving. We argued about that. But,
yeah, there you go, George.
You stuck with it.
At here, he said I was crazy, and he was right. But I made a call there, and then I made another call here. But my reason for calling was I just think that this is a world-class, high-grade gold deposit in British Columbia, Canada. There's a lot of extremely high-grade gold there. And look at, George, here's why you always got to be paying attention no matter what condition the market's in. Here you had an opportunity, if you understood the fundamentals of the company, to be buying this at around 350, let's say under $4 comfortably. Lots of time to buy it under $4 comfortably.
And you called it. You did call that.
It's $9.10, over $9, around $9.
So what do you do here? Okay, so you made these calls at 450, then you made them at 350. So let's say you got an average cost of $4 now, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Because my book says it doubles, you sell half, at least a third, if not a half. So you take most of your money, if not all your money, off the table. Would you be selling anything here, or you keep riding this? What do you do?
I'm drawing some lines here for you, George. Can you see that black line?
Yep.
Okay. Low, around another low. You see the trend that this thing's on? There's a reason.
I've seen it break that low a couple of times there. So
yeah,
you could just draw a line further down.
Yeah, I could do that better actually, but you get my point, right?
Yeah, you could start from that December low and drive it up towards those two other lows.
So here's a low, here's a low, here's a low, here's a high, here's a high, here's a high, here's a high.
So based on that, it should be coming back a little bit.
Yeah, it might come back to 840, 850, somewhere in there. Maybe down to 840-ish. Test those last couple highs there, George. That's right at, if you can see my crosshairs, that's right at around 840. So if it comes back to there, I just think that this is a core holding, George, for anybody that's interested in gold stocks. I think that this is a high probability to be taken over. If they're not taken over, I think it's even better news, because in the long haul, I think this company can become one of the lowest cost producers of gold in the industry. That's why I think that there's such a high candidate to be taken over. All the majors want to bring their average cost of production down, but if this one gets to be a producer, they're the kind that could grow into another gold corp. I love this deposit that they have a lot. I think it's going to be a real winner.
All right. Let's move on to Fission Uranium, FCU, on the Venture Exchange. No stranger to this show. If Alan's pounded the table out of anything, it's Fission. They do 1.1 million shares on average a day. Liquidity is not a problem. But the stock price has been stuck in a rut. And you and I have had this debate, actually, and right now I've got you on it, where I'm saying I'm not interested in buying in this rut. And you can see it here. It is after it made this nice run. And by the way, I did take a core position at $1.60, but I said I won't sell that for 2 or 3 years. That was I will not touch it for 2 to 3 years, so I didn't care. But as a trading position, I didn't want to touch it. I mean, it's got to be disappointing you a little bit with all these numbers that it's putting out. Huge fundamentals, and yet it can't get out of its own way, and it keeps inching down, inching down. Here's the 6 months. So inching down, bit of a dip, takes it, inching down, inching further down. That's got to be a little bit disheartening to you. What the hell is going on over at Fission? Why should we trust this level right here?
Well, you know me, George. It's always based on the fundamentals, and I have been very successful during my newsletter writing days. I picked about 52 companies in my written reports, and 20, some of them either turned into producers or takeovers. And so I stick to takeover targets. I know what a takeover target looks like, and I stick with them no matter what. You asked me how many times am I going to pick Fission? I'm going to keep picking it every time they come out with great drill results until the company's taken over. Because I know once this company once the ball starts rolling for a takeover, there's going to be 3 or 4 companies that get into the bidding war over this company. And so I want our audience to have heard about it a lot. And don't get wrong, George, I can't be too upset. I picked it down here at around 70 cents. It ran up here.
You've done well with it. You've done well with it.
I picked it this period here. You and I were arguing a lot because it was going sideways, and even much like what you're talking about now, kind of a lower low, just sort of meandering sideways and even showing a little bit of weakness. But then look at the move after that, $1.03 to $1.70. Yes, it gave us back a lot of that ground, but you had some great opportunity. 1, 2, and I think this is the third great opportunity in this stock to buy it when it's in this meandering kind of period and for the next run up. Now, you got to look at, is there a reason or is there a news flow that could cause it to have another run? They just announced recently that they're doing something like 60,000 meters of drilling this summer on that project. There's going to be phenomenal news flow coming out of this company. We get any kind of move up and enthusiasm towards uranium, and I think Fission could perform very well. Now, what I've seen here in the last month and a half, 2 months, we had a low here. We had another low here. It is starting to create those higher lows. So I'm ready.
But it's not doing the higher highs yet either. It's not doing
That's correct. Well, from this low, it had a higher high, then a lower low. Well, it hasn't had a lower low yet.
It had a lower high, but it had a lower high that third.
Oh, yes, you're right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's still in flux. That's the bottom line.
Sure.
But here's what I'm liking. So I'm gonna show you guys something here. I'm thinking you can see my my chart here.
I can see the one with all the boxes in it, George, not the highlighted one you usually do.
Okay, hold on. Let me bring that over to you right now. Let me get that to you. Let me do screen share. All right, so let me do it again. You can see that now?
Not yet, George. Oh, there it is.
All right, so here's what's different. First of all, MACD. Okay, this is all technical. It was lower and it's drawn even. All right, looks like it wants to potentially move higher. All the RSIs are very flat. So no excitement in the stock. The stochastics, no excitement. And here's probably what I like here. I'm seeing that the downward momentum not only stopped, but it's starting to creep back here. It's starting to creep back. So I wouldn't mind taking a position here
Look at
anywhere
your
between
Bollinger
$1.
Bands. Look at your Bollinger Bands too, George.
Everything, and that's what I was going to say. Everything here is super tight. Here's the gold. Here's the top. See the spread here? See how big it is, right? See how big the spreads are? But look at here when it got narrow. Look what happened here.
Look at the next narrow. Look at the next narrow.
Bam! It just took off. Right? So I'm thinking between the narrowing of the bands, the fundamentals from Allen, and all the moving averages converging right here, I'm going to want to be a buyer somewhere, anywhere between $1.12 and $1.15. I'm fine. I want to play that. I want to play that with $1.05 stop loss put in on a trading position. But I think
George, it's not. Everyone might think this could be a love fest, but the reality is on our picks, we don't often agree. And usually when we agree, it's a pretty bullish sign.
Yeah, and especially on fission, we don't agree, right? We've argued about it the whole time.
Yeah, we've argued a lot. Yeah.
I'm gonna be looking to be a buyer on fission. There'll be low volume because of the holidays. I'll be putting in bids, $1.12, $1.13, in there. If I can get it, great. But I won't get too greedy and wait. So if I have to move to $1.14, $1.15, I'll take it. So there's my call on fission right now.
Well, my mom is gonna love you, George, because she owns the stock at I think around $1.05 or something like that. So she'll be happy to hear you say that.
Let's move on to your next one here. Kaminak Gold, KAM on the Venture Exchange, 85-cent close on Friday. Typically does 123,000 shares a day, so not bad. It does about $100,000 in volume a day. I can live with that. What is about Kaminak Gold that you're liking?
Okay, so with Kaminak Gold, George, it's a news flow story to me. They're up in the Yukon when it's winter time, no news. Look at what happens here in the winter time. Boom, 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 boom. December comes, bottoms out, starts improving. Now, why that happens is because people start to get a little more optimistic in the beginning of the year. They know that there's a big resource here, and now it's kind of had its second pullback in the last year. And what I like about this coming out of here is this is kind of a seasonal play to me, George, in that now they're coming into their season of work when they'll have a lot of news flow for the next few months. So I don't know if this is the perfect day to call it. Maybe you get it down here at about 80, maybe even get it down here at about 75 cents. But what it is a good play for me is news flow play over the next few months. I think that this under 80, 85 and under kind of prices, you'll get a chance to be rewarded quite handsomely. Look at how high it got last summer. In September last year, it was trading well over $1 there. I think you've got a good chance for a good move again on this one.
Yeah, September
They're more significant this year than last year, though, because now they've got a resource done on the company.
Got to $1.02. Take a look at the technicals. I'm a little concerned about the fact, and I'm not sure. Can you see my? What are you looking at here?
I can see all the squares.
All right, so let me do this. And by the way, folks, because I'm working out of the computer at home, and it doesn't have the multiple screens, so I'm going to bring it over to you right now. What's worrying me about Kaminak right now is one thing: the MACD histogram here. Momentum is slowing, It had some nice momentum. And take a look. If you look at that crosshair, see how it's peaked out at others. So it's peaked out a number of times right around here. See that crosshair? So it's peaked, it's dropped. It's peaked, it's dropped. It's peaked, it's dropped. It's peaked, it's dropped. And so it's peaked here, and it's dropped. Now the drop may be over because look, every time it would stay, it would come when it made this drop. It wouldn't get into the red. So here it did, but moved. Here it didn't, moved. Here it didn't, it moved. So I may not buy it right now. I sit back and wait. So this is a no pick for me right here. I don't see a buy here. I don't see a buy here just yet. For me, it's in a little bit technical no man's land.
Fair enough.
All right.
Next one.
Let's bring you to the Pilot Gold. Your good old favorite Pilot Gold is back again. And bring this up for everyone to see.
This is another,
PLG.
this is another one that we've gotten right several times.
You nailed it. This has been all you. I've had nothing to say about any of these guys. In fact, I got to tell everyone, when Alan was picking it back here, in the 50s, 80s, I almost hated it because the volume was non-existent, and I didn't like the lack of liquidity. So we'd argue about it, right? Say, Alan, it may be a good company, but it's doing 20,000 shares a day at 70 cents. So there's $14,000 in volume. You can't get in and out of this thing. If you buy a $10,000 position, you can't move out of it without being the entire market. So we argued it, but here's an example of where fundamentals trumps the technicals, and that happens sometimes. And Alan knew the story was going to be great, and he was picking it from the 50s and the 60s and 80s, and look where it is now, $1.60, and it's doing, let's see, did 102,000 shares, and it's averaging now 190,000 shares a day. So now the company's cranking out, $320,000 a day in volume. So it's doing fantastic stuff. And they're tied into Nevada Sunrise, by the way.
Yeah, actually, I'm making a dual pick here, and
Sure.
What I talk about on both these companies makes sense. Why I picked it, George. Again, it comes down to that truth machine, the drill holes I saw early from their first batch of drill holes when I started. I think I started right around here somewhere. I saw the first drill holes and I said, wow, this looks like another significant discovery of gold in Nevada. And I got really aggressive for another reason too, George, was that the people running Pilot Gold had already made a discovery that was taken over by a major, and it was like they were getting ready to do it again. So, anytime I see that, I liked what I saw, and that's why I've been pounding the table and talking about this company as much as I can, because I think that this is a great new discovery. So this is PLG. We got it here low. It ran up nice, gave back some of those gains. I think it's got its best days ahead of it, and for the stock, I like this one a lot. Here's the partner in the project. Now, even though Nevada Sunrise only owns 30% of the play, they also have a lot less stock out. So, for some reason, my thing won't change here for me. But I know why. Okay, we should be able to get Nevada Sunrise up here. But Nevada Sunrise has less stock out, and so they have big moves in them as well, based on the results there. So here it is, Nevada Sunrise. Do you see it now, George?
Yep, just popped up. Perfect.
So here
in fact,
it was.
That's looking technically better than Pilot Gold right now. I'd be a buyer technically. Just
and that's funny, George, that you say that, because I've actually picked Nevada Sunrise a couple times more than Pilot Gold, because I saw the same thing. The chart looks, even though it trades less volume, it's much more bullish of an action. Now, again, it could be because of the amount of stock that's out on Pilot Gold, but I just love it.
It seems like the dips keep getting bought. The dips keep getting bought.
Yes.
What is that moving average? The one where it's sitting at right now. Which line is that?
That is the 50-day, I believe.
All right. Yeah, because it seems like look how the 50-day has been very friendly to it. When it hasn't broken through the 50-day since the beginning of the year. The last time it was below its 50 days. So the 50-day seems to be very friendly to it. So, when you see that.
Even this, George, look at this. You can see how I've got it highlighted, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Look, it hasn't broken through it really. I mean, those are day trades.
Look at the candles, right? Even on those days when it traded below the 50, it didn't close below the 50.
Yeah, that tells me a lot. So put Pilot down as a buy for me on Monday.
No, you're saying Nevada Sun. This is Nevada
Sunrise. Sorry, yeah. Nevada Sunrise. Put that
down.
So
whatever makes someone more see, I think that this project that they have is a company maker, right? And that's all that really Nevada Sunrise has. Now, on the other hand, Pilot Gold has other projects. One's in Turkey, I believe, and so if you want a little more diversification, well, PLG is probably safer. But if you love this project like I do, Nevada Sunrise could be your play.
All right. So, I'm making a buy. I'm buying that. That chart just tells me everything I need to know. I don't need to know anything else. Even if I didn't know what this company did, if I just knew they're a good company, that's all I need to know. That chart tells me the 50-day has been really strong all year long, and it's bounced. It bounced off of it in February, bounced off it in March, bounced off of it in the middle of May. It's bounced off it here at the end of June, early July. I'm buying 10,000 worth of 10,000 shares on Monday. And then,
I'll give you another reason why to be excited, George. They're coming into their work season, so they're going to have a lot of news.
Yeah. So that's a buy for me. That's my highest on the list right now. That's my highest on the list. And remember, you got to tell everyone at home, by the way, you got to do your own due diligence.
Absolutely.
What I do and what Alan does, you're just watching us, and we're teaching you why we do what we do, but we have no idea if you're worth $1 billion. We have no idea if you live in paycheck to paycheck. You can't be following what we're doing. You've got to talk to your financial advisor. You've got to talk to your spouse. You got to do your homework. You got to do your homework. Don't assume that Alan and I are always conflicted and biased as possible. I love that about the Zero Hedge website. Take a look at the disclaimer on Zero Hedge. They say, assume if we're talking about something, it means we like it, so we're biased. Don't buy it just because we're buying it at the end of the day.
George, everybody that has an opinion is biased.
That's it. Anything. So assume that Al and I are horribly conflicted, and because of that, assume the worst, and you got to do your own due diligence. I mean, hopefully we
and
have
another thing And another thing that we always harp on, besides doing your homework, talking to your financial advisors, no matter which stock, whether it's a stock we talk about or a stock you found for yourself or a stock that your advisors find for you, put in your stops. Put in your stops.
Because stops have saved my life.
Exactly.
Because you don't know if tomorrow Nevada Sunrise, who knows, somebody argues about the claims and says it's their claims, not Nevada Sunrise, the stock drops 50%. We never know that. So because of that, we put in our stops. And I'm actually plugging in my phone here, Alan. So Jimmy, you keep talking there for a second. I got to plug my
Okay, I'm going to go on to the next company now, which is Virginia Mines. Virginia Mines trade is VGQ. They trade on the Toronto Exchange. I love this company, George. Look at this performer. How do you like this for a leader? This time last year, trading at around $9, traded as high as $14.50. Look at this beautiful trend.
I'm back, and that's a breakout right there. That's an official breakout right there.
Why this company is such a strong performer is because this is an extremely well-run company. It's run by Andre Goumond. Andre is a true gentleman in this business and a real leader. He's the guy. Their company, Virginia Gold, found the Éléonore mine in Quebec. Éléonore is now almost ready to be bought into production, as Goldcorp bought the deposit from Virginia Mines. Now, when Virginia Mines was a spin-out from Virginia Gold, in addition to $40 million in cash, they also got a royalty on the Éléonore mine for a couple percent. So now the company is going to start to receive those big checks on a regular basis. The other thing that's
great information, Alan. Awesome information. You can't beat that kind of fundamental knowledge. Good for you, man. That's fantastic. You're sharing that with everybody.
Well, it even gets better. Here's how well run this company is, George. Andre has gone out there and done a bunch of joint venture deals with other companies, so they're spending their own money and they're spending their partners' money. But in the last 4 or 5 years, they've done on average, I would say, somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 million a year. And during that period, their cash level has not dropped below $40 million. They're making enough money in interest and having their partners spending money, and they're getting some pre-royalty money coming in already from Eleanor, and they've been able to keep their cash position above 40 million and give their investors that kind of potential for discovery every year. It's just an extremely well-run company. I know Andre personally. He's a true gentleman. He does a wonderful job for his shareholders in creating value. He did it with Virginia Gold, and he's got a portfolio of properties that he's trying to do it again, but this time he's got a lot of funding behind him and more money coming in. I just can't say enough good things about this company.
This stock is in breakout, I'm telling you right now. I looked at that chart, I'm looking at mine. This baby's in breakout right now. I'd set a stop loss of 12.15 as a stop loss, but here's what I really like right here. I don't know, it seems like it just couldn't get any negative momentum, and I just like it. I don't know what it is. It's officially in breakout. I would buy this comfortably. 12.15 as a stop loss, but I'd buy it right now on Monday. I still like Pilot Gold. I still like Nevada Sunrise better. That's my number one choice. But take a look, if you can see again. Look at how narrow the Bollinger Band. See these Bollinger Bands, these yellow. This whole range here. All right. Look what happened last time it got this narrow. Take a look. Last time the bands got this narrow, this is back in December of just a few months ago. Kablam, right? Because it got really tight, and from what Alan's telling us, the fundamentals tell us it's highly unlikely to break to the downside because it's got so much fundamental support. This can't go anywhere. This isn't a pump and dump. This isn't someone's stock of the day, sector of the week, and see if you could ride it, but everyone leaves you. This is too good of a company. So look at that. Okay, look at that narrow range right there. Kablam. Narrow range again, got really tight, and now it's breaking out. I'm buying this strong on Monday. I'm buying this really strong on Monday.
This is a core holding for people that are in this business. And you know what I call this company, George? It's a major junior. I love companies that they're interested in building something serious. And by doing that, they're well funded, great people, great projects. They got a pipeline of projects, and those projects are in different stages as well. You've got some that are pure grassroots, you've got some that are advancing, you've got some that are developing. I love that pipeline. I love the people running the company. Someday I'm going to get together and introduce you to Andre Goumand at one of the shows, George. You're going to love this guy. He is just a salt of the earth, really great guy, and a real gentleman, and he does a great job running companies.
Hey, I got an idea. We got this thing called the internet and Google Plus. Why don't we get on an interview with this guy?
Yes, good call, George. Good call.
I'm crazy. Sometimes I think about these people, but guys, I'm telling you, love it. Love this. This is fantastic. So you got to stay with that. So that's the end of the show right there. That's all the picks that we've made for the week. But more importantly, I think Al and I concur that this is going to be 7-Eleven for us last year marked the ultimate bottom for everybody, and it was a little easier to find stuff. This 7-Eleven, I think, has marked the bottom for the great companies. Everyone else is dead. They're not coming back. And now we're going to narrow that search even more. It was easier to get lift out of companies last year. We got to look a little more, but it's not going to be that hard. We got Alan looking, and then you got my dumb ideas every once in a while. Between the two of us,
you're being too modest there, George.
Between the two of us, I think we're going to have some monster win. I'm telling you, I see huge wins, and I can't wait for we should line some up for next week on Friday, 7/11, 2014.
Hey, and don't forget, George. I probably never told you this, but you're grinding me on stuff, right? Whenever I'm getting ready for the show, I'm always thinking, oh, I know what George is going to pound me on this one. I know what George is going to pound me on this one. Oh, I'm not going to pick that one because I agree with George on that one. So your input definitely affects my picks.
Yeah, that's what I look for. I look for consensus from both of us, but hey, by far, Alan's got the better stuff, and he picks his companies that are great, and it makes it a lot easier to pick. It makes it so much easier to pick stocks when you understand that they're great. It really does, because I don't have your depth, and it's not a love, and it's not a tit for tat. I just love this because when I know a company is awesome and it's solid, then that's one huge chunk I have to worry about less. And that's always a big chunk, because sometimes stocks just move because of great promotion and things like that, and the bottom can fall out. You can say, how the hell did I just lose 30%, right? Highly unlikely you're going to get Virginia Mines or TM Resources suddenly drop 30% because a promotion ended. And so it makes it so much easier to say, yep, strong company, technicals look good, I'm in. I don't have to think about it on Monday. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Alan, awesome pick, buddy.
I think that helps investors out as well. You know, if you don't take what I say for the gospel. Go out there and do your own homework. Look at these things, and I think what you'll end up doing is confirming what I'm saying. And if you confirm that in your own mind, like you said, George, I'll bet you that this has been one of your best years as a trader. And it's not like we had a rising tide, lifting all boats. We know the difference between quality and not. And when we do get that market where everything rises, those companies that we pick consistently will be the big performers as well.
I got to tell you, it was a very good year trading. I've kicked myself a couple of times because I missed some of your picks, not for technical reasons, but either missed them or was away, or there's some picks I just have been more diligent on. What I'm going to commit to doing in the second year of 7-Eleven is moving much faster on your picks, moving much, much faster. When your fundamentals and my technicals add up, it's almost going to be a case of Monday mornings I'm not doing anything else for the first hour but setting all my trades, and because I want to double what I did last year.
That's the 1-2 punch, George. 1-2.
All right. And remember, if there are any conflicts, I don't own any of these shares that you saw today. Not one of them. I sold my BSM. I've got some Fission, sorry, at $1.60. BlackBerry I sold out of, so we don't have any conflicts. None of these companies work for us.
My mom owns some Fission, and my best friends own some BlackBerry, so I guess I'm biased on those two as well.
Well, I'm sure they got it for a reason. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Great show. Glad to be back. Sorry for the delay, but this we're gonna have some great shows for you coming up, commemorating 7-Eleven. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Happy July 4th to all our American friends.
Sounds great, George. Another great show in the can, as they say. And next 7-Eleven is next Friday. We're going to have our anniversary. We'll have a lot to talk about. So go out there, do your homework, check out our picks, and we'll talk to you next week. Have a great day.